Hello and welcome to the In Focus series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja. In this segment today, we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. Have you ever thought of how much of a task it was to integrate so many independent or semi-autonomous princely states into the country we are living in right now? It was a huge task. This mantle was taken up by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And that is why it is very important for us to know what was the process or how did India become an independent and integrated state post-independence. So this particular topic will focus on many aspects, going from the news, how did the British administer India, the division basically, status of princely states at the time of independence, the integration of India. Now, because we have taken this topic from the perspective of why did so many princely states joined India, but very few princely states joined Pakistan. Why did it happen so? And the conclusion will talk about what was the difference between the process of integration with India, the princely states, why did they join India, and what was the difference with respect to Pakistan. And in the last of the segment, I'm going to ask you a prelims-based question. I will try to make it brief as possible, but of course, conceptual clarity should be there. Why Pakistan ended up with so few princely states? Now, we need to understand at the time of independence, India was not as it is today. India was a pretty much divided country. The task to leave India was given to Lord Mountbatten, who had relations with the royal family. And there were actually 2 points. First of all, ensuring that the British respectfully leave India. Secondly, India was left in such a manner that the task of integrating it did not fall to Britain, did not fall on the shoulders of the British administration. So that is why this particular position that India was in at that time was very horrendous. The task was huge. The partition was something that India wanted to run away from, but it was an eventuality which India had to deal with. So it's quite interesting how India formed as it is today. So British administered India into 2 parts. First were the British provinces. Now here, 60% of India that it is today was administered as British provinces. And the princely states, these comprised of the remaining 40%. The British provinces were under direct control of the British administration. But the princely states, these were in control of the British through the native rulers with which they had different treaties. So under treaties, they had their allegiance to Britain. And it comprised of 2/5 of the territory of, you can say, the entire British territory, 2/5 only. So we have to understand that India, even after independence, had a continuous job of wooing, cajoling, sometimes pressuring these princely states to become a country. Now, moving on, let's talk about the map. This map is showing us the different varieties of India in terms of geography. The princely states were 565 in number, odd 500 states, 565, of which 562 were integrated into India not very easily, because the process that I'm going to tell you after this is going to really amuse you in the sense that how it was possible for India to become India. Moving on, let's talk about the status at the time of independence. Now let's talk about status at the time of independence. What was the status? Many semi-autonomous chiefdoms were in fact one of the toughest challenges, because these chiefdoms, first of all, they all were nurturing a dream of independence. They all had their own dreams and ambitions. What will they do after independence? Nobody who is in power continuously wants to give up that power for allegiance. And they did so with the British, but now after independence, they thought, why not carve out our own state? And Ramchandra Guha in India After Gandhi speaks of the princely states as a geopolitical problem, the likes of which no independent state had ever faced or is likely to face in the future. Why? Because India is a country of varied cultures, vast diversity is there, and Hence, a nation, whenever it is made, it should be directed in one direction. Fundamentals should be the same. Superficialities can be avoided, but fundamentals should be the same. Then only any region can become a nation. So when we as a nation strive for one thing together, that is called nationalism. And I am talking about the fundamentals, not the superficiality. Like democracy is our aspiration. This everybody wants to achieve. It might be that the mode of achievement is different. You might want to achieve it through the help of another political party. I might be wanting to achieve it through the help of another political party, but eventually the goal is the same. So nation or nationalism is based on that only. Then Lord Mountbatten, when he became the Viceroy of India, he had a task along with other very important and prominent people to leave India. At least if Britain is exiting India, it should be as integrated as possible. So Lord Mountbatten, in his speech in the Chamber of Princes in 1947 himself said that it is very difficult for princely states to remain independent, and it is beyond their dream, or they must be in disillusionment that if they can remain independent. That's not so. They have to either accede to India or Pakistan, because in Purna Swaraj Declaration in 1930, since 1930 India wanted to achieve Purna Swaraj or complete independence, it was said that whenever India is going to achieve independence, it will be the freedom for all, and the princely states, the states will also be integrated. This is very much evident in the 1938 Haripura session. This was made very evident there. Do you remember who was the Congress president during the Haripura session? If so, please do comment. So this was the one. This task was given to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the man of the moment. That was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man, who made it possible for India to remain India as we are seeing it today. Similarly, Sir Abdul Rab Nishtar was given the task of integrating Pakistan, getting as many princely states as possible in Pakistan. So Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Sardar Abdul Rab Nishtar, they were doing their job. It was already acknowledged by India that integrating princely states is going to be an issue. That was acknowledged far time ago, long time ago, when India achieved independence. So 25th June 1947, States Department was formed under Sardar Patel, okay, and VP Menon was appointed as the Secretary of States Department. The story is that after achieving independence, it was his dream to see India achieving independence. VP Menon, he was about to retire, but his potential was seen by many prominent leaders back then. So he was offered the position of Secretary of State Department under Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and both together they ensured that India remains integrated. Then what happened? Nizam of Hyderabad, he wanted to have sovereignty of his own state. He was not ready to give up the sovereignty, and Hyderabad, as we all know, was integrated into India by police action, and that was done under Operation Polo, very famous operation, Operation Polo, right? Jodhpur was a case that was very unique. See, generally whenever any princely state was integrated, it was on the grounds of, first, it was seen the majority population over there, is it Hindu majority or Muslim majority? But Jodhpur was a case sui generis, in the sense that the leader was Hindu. The demography, that means the majority population of the citizens over there, were also Hindu. But Jodhpur, the leader of Jodhpur, he did not want to accede to India. He did not want to accede to India because Jinnah gave him a blank paper, told him to write down any conditions that you want to, but please do join Pakistan. Jodhpur was so far away geographically, it was pretty far away from Pakistan. So he was ready, okay, I will join Pakistan. But after meeting VP Menon, it was a pretty heated up conversation then when he met VP Menon. it is being alleged, and it was there, that during that argument he also pulled out his gun. So that was the level of diplomatic maneuvers Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and VP Menon had to do. And finally, he acceded to India. Jodhpur acceded to India. Bhopal finally accedes to India. Bhopal also did not want to join either India or Pakistan. Okay, so it would interest you to know that the Nawab of Bhopal, the family that is related to Bhopal, is Pataudi family. The current head is Saif Ali Khan. Okay, and Bhopal also had very close relations with Pakistan. So back then, Bhopal, Pakistan as in Jinnah. So Bhopal wanted to be a part of Pakistan, but finally acceded to India. Travancore was the first state to say that we will remain independent. Okay, he wanted to ensure, the ruler of Travancore wanted to ensure that they wanted to remain independent, as Kashmir after that also followed the same suit to remain independent but joined India. Then comes 5th August 1947. Now, it would be interesting for you to know that Junagadh earlier acceded to Pakistan. And interestingly, Junagadh was here, this entire region of Junagadh. Okay, and Junagadh was very adamant on joining Pakistan. Mahabat Khan III, he, on the suggestion of Shah Nawaz Bhutto, the Diwan of Junagadh, he said that I am going to join Pakistan. And he was an eccentric of sorts. He spent a fortune on the upkeep of his dogs. He was very fond of dogs. But then, after pressure, continuous pressure, what happened? He ran away to Pakistan, taking his dogs, leaving behind his wife and children. That was the case with the ruler of Junagadh. After that happened in September 1947, the Diwan was left over here in Junagadh only, Shah Nawaz Bhutto. He eventually acceded to India. He surrendered before India, and in September 1948, it was decided that we are going to conduct a plebiscite in Junagadh, and in which the plebiscite, 91% of the citizens were agreeing to joining India. Okay, so that is fine. That happened. All right. Then again, if we talk about the next point, we of course have to see Baroda. Okay, so Baroda, as you see, had certain regions in Gujarat, this particular region, and they wanted to accede to India, but there were conditions as well. The state of Baroda wanted to join India, and they wanted to have a lot of fortune, excruciated from the state exchequer for them. But Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel did not agree to do so. So what happened? That Baroda acceded to India. Then, of course, how can we forget about Kashmir? Kashmir was choosing to be independent, not joining either Pakistan or India. And there was a time when it was said that, okay, let Kashmir remain independent. We will decide about it after the plebiscite or a referendum is going to be conducted. The narrative back then in Kashmir was highly in favor of India, highly. And this was already known to Pakistan. And what happened? In order to ensure that Kashmir doesn't join India, they put out a war in Kashmir. And when Maharaja Hari Singh saw that happening, he signed the instrument of accession and acceded to India after that. So Kashmir accedes to India. This is a paper clipping. Moving on. Now we talk about referendum in Junagadh. As I have already told you, that after the surrender of the Diwan, a plebiscite was conducted. Junagadh comes to India, and Manipur, with many uncertainties, when it was afraid of Myanmar, it joined India. And after that, there are many states which are not very important over here from the perspective of being a princely state. So we will conclude here with respect to India. What about Pakistan? Generally, as I told you, whenever we are talking about accession, it favors two things. What is the demography and what is the geographical proximity? So keeping that in mind, you would think, okay, so the major states from Pakistan, Cooch Behar in Bengal, and of course the Sindh region, it will all belong to Pakistan, but that did not happen. Why? Because first of all, we have to understand from the perspective of the Muslim League over here. Muslim League was very unbothered about the princely states. There is a reason over there. We will talk about that as well. Concentration of power was done only in one hand, because when India became independent, Jawaharlal Nehru became the prime minister, but he knew that who was in a better position to negotiate with the states, and that was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Many prominent leaders were, of course, very happy with Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's diplomatic stance, whatever he had. So that he did. But that was not the case with Pakistan. Pakistan was very personality oriented and devoting itself only to Jinnah. So Jinnah wanted to have this entire intricate task of dealing with the states to himself only. But he was very unbothered before independence, and he did not want to, get into the matter of princely states, keep it ongoing as the status quo, because first of all, the league was in a lot of issues in 1930s. To keep it afloat, Jinnah did not want to get into any sorts of trouble with the princely states, because financial problems were there. There were difference in narratives in the league itself. So why to have some other headache? That was the narrative. Then historian Ian Copland says that because of the checkered history of the league's relationship with the princes in the last 3 decades of the colonial period, it might have happened that the Muslim League did not want to talk to the princely states, because they already had their own problems with Congress. Another thing, they were pressurizing the Muslims in Punjab and Bengal to get integrated with Pakistan from the very beginning. So that could be the reason. Problems in the league, I have already told you. Jinnah did not want to really accede Kashmir into Pakistan. Why? He might have taken the issues of the Kashmiri Muslims privately with the viceroy, that he did in 1943 and 1945. But he did not want to build an open narrative against the Maharaja of Kashmir. He even said up to a point to a delegation of Muslims in Kashmir that please do not talk about acceding to India or Pakistan. Talk about your independence. That means he wanted Kashmir to remain independent. This was the pre-colonial stance. What happened post-independence? Post-independence, the league's stance changed. Why? Because Mountbatten revised the plan. Because of that, what happened? That more than half of the agriculturally productive area of Pakistan, of Calcutta metropolis, it went to India. So now what? There was a panic. The entire situation was very panicky. So they wanted to integrate at least those areas which are very productive in nature. And when Sir Cyril Radcliffe declared the Radcliffe Award, the Muslim majority area of Gurdaspur was awarded to India. Another issue. Now, if that could happen, because demographics were taken into the picture back then, so if that could happen, why not talk to Jodhpur, Maharaja of Jodhpur and Nawab of Jodhpur and Nawab of Kashmir to accede into Pakistan? They started targeting border states like Kashmir, Jodhpur and Jaisalmer, which of course had this eligibility of becoming a part of Pakistan because of their geographical proximity. There were also pressure tactics for Rampur. Kashmir, Jodhpur and Jaisalmer were actually getting wooed in the manner that they were promised that, okay, you get on with your autocratic rule in your states, but please come into the integrity of Pakistan. For Rampur, a lot of pressure was created, so much so that the ruler of Rampur said that so much pressure has been created on me, to the viceroy, he was saying, Lord Mountbatten, that now I am feeling I am harassed. Then direct inroads were also being made. Narratives were being generated in Kashmir to rebel against India and many other states. So these direct inroads were also being made, which was not the case with India. Now, Bahawalpur in Punjab and Khairpur in Sindh, these regions became a part of Pakistan. Now, Bahawalpur had a Muslim majority population and the ruler was also Muslim. Same was with Khairpur. So India did not bother much. Why to integrate a region which is not wanting to be with India into India? Why that? Chitral, Dir, Swat and Amb. These were the 4 small states which were lying adjacent to the northwest frontier province. But Chitral, Swat, and basically, as we see, they are a majority part of the northwest frontier province. More than half of the landmass is belonging to them. The ruler of Delhi was not happy that it has to become Shah Jahan Khan. It has to become a part of Pakistan because it was sharing a border with Afghanistan. It said that we are going to have the same relationship that I had with the British, but eventually it joined Pakistan. Hunza and Nagar, they had their Hunza, Nagar and Gilgit. These three had their allegiance to Kashmir. So when Kashmir joined India, they rebelled against Maharaja of Kashmir. The princely state of Kalat, located in a modern day Balochistan, this wanted to remain independent. Ahmad Yar Khan was the ruler over here and he wanted to remain independent. But what happened? Now Lasbela, Kharan and Makran, these were dismembered or taken away from Kalat. It became very, you can see, say weak after that, and eventually came into the region of Pakistan. So Chitral, Dar, Swat, remember all these could be asked in your examination. And one more thing I would like to add for this was that Chitral, Dar, Swat, these were very, you can say, tribal areas, and these were living on subsistence farming. They are still not, seen as a part of the Constitution of India. Constitution does not take them into consideration. So they still are like out of Pakistan, but they wanted to get integrated with Pakistan. Moving on, let's talk about the conclusion. As I told you, the process was very different. Why? Because the process of integration in India was different on the grounds India had a very diplomatically arranged sequencing of the princely states wherever it was possible. And wherever it was not possible, of course, we have to understand that India had to go with its security, its integrity, and ensure that any foreign country did not again make its inroads into India. So first that. Pakistan had huge dominance of military in the integration of Pakistan. Apart from that, many terrorist strategic assets were also used, as in the case of Kashmir, when fair means were abandoned and unfair means were taken to integrate a country, a region into its own. And still, that ambivalence to democracy, not respecting democracy enough, and the indifference to democracy is still plaguing Pakistan when it comes to the entire political structure of Pakistan. Now let us see our prelims question. Operation Polo relates to which of the following? Annexation of Hyderabad, rescue operation from UAE, evacuation from Afghanistan, A to Sri Lankan crisis. I asked you a question, prelims question, in your in focus. So let me just go through it so that I can take your names. Okay. Just bear with me a few moments. There are many comments. I will try to, consider as many names as possible. I think more than 100 comments are there. In the butterfly minds, I asked you. The correct answer was option D. Okay, so just let me take the names who have answered them correctly. Okay, so D was the correct answer. Ramana Kuraku, Akshay, Vikash, Shobhit, Sunidhi, then Saphrophile, Mary, Sumit, Ashish, Aarti, Kanishk, Pallavi Jangir, Daksha Kori, POITEA 𝐏𝐸𝐾𝐲, option D is correct. Arpita Roy, Veeramani, and Bharat Solanki, Sakshi Sharma, option D, neither one nor two is correct. Nida Fatmi, Chitra, then we have everything for students. Yes, everything for students. D is correct. You have answered it correctly. Rahul has answered it correctly. Sagar, then Alpha Fox, no option is correct. No answer, no statement is correct. Think Green, Go Green has answered it correctly. Abhishek, then Prajit, Mr. Khan, Gautam, Simran, and Guncha has answered it correctly. Anuj, Anubhab, Shrutika, Zahid, Sanjo, Monica, Deepeshwar, Anurag, Bilal, Riya, Akshita, Sandeep, Rohit, and Ramandeep. No, Ramandeep hasn't answered. He has said thank you. Welcome, Ramandeep. Madhusudan has answered it correctly. Akash, Balram, Mukesh, Kiran, Anshika, Prem, Priyanshu, Neha, Arslan, Darshan has answered it correctly, also written the reason why he is answering so. Knowledge IQ, again Mehubam, Aditya, and Surendra, and Pompey. Okay, thank you so much for answering. Do the same for this one as well. Thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned and stay updated.